All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're talking about something that feels like it's straight out of science fiction. It's a technology that completely blurs the line between life itself and computation. And the craziest part? Living computers? They're not some far-off future concept. They're already here.
So, I want you to start by just thinking about this one question. For our entire lives, computers have been about silicon and circuits, put together in these super sterile factories. But what if the next giant leap isn't about building smaller, faster chips? What if it's about growing processing power from actual living things? And that's where this wild idea called biocomputing comes in. It's basically a hybrid ecosystem where biology and digital tech just melt into each other. We're not talking about a metaphor here. We're talking about using living organisms as the literal hardware for our computers. So let's get into it. Our first section, computers that live. To really get this, you kind of have to set aside everything you know about traditional hardware, because the components we're about to talk about are, well, literally alive. The two stars of our show today are microelectronics and Wetware. On one side, you've got these incredible fungal networks. Think of them as nature's own internet, acting as amazing sensory hardware that can even heal itself. And on the other side, you've got Wetware, which uses actual human neurons as processing units that can learn at a frankly astonishing speed. Two totally different approaches, but they're both aiming for the same revolutionary goal.
Okay, so now that we've met the main characters, let's dig into the details. How does this new living hardware actually work? What's going on under the hood?
First up, mycoelectronics. This whole field uses fungal mycelium, those super intricate root-like networks you find under mushrooms, as living sensors. And the coolest part is, we're not inventing something from scratch here. We're just tapping into a biological technology that nature has been perfecting for over 1 billion years. So what can this stuff do? What are its superpowers? Well, for one, it transduces stimuli, which is just a fancy way of saying it can turn one kind of energy into another, like turning heat directly into an electrical signal. It's also self-healing. If you damage a connection, the network just fixes itself, usually within hours. And finally, it's incredibly flexible, which makes it absolutely perfect for things like adaptive robotics or smart wearables that need to bend and move with us. All right, so from fungi, we're now going to jump over to neurons. And if you thought microelectronics was wild, well, Wetware is a whole different leap. This is what's called synthetic biological intelligence. We're talking literally about a brain in a dish. And this isn't just some concept in a lab. It's a real commercial product. There's a company called Cortical Labs, and they've developed this system they call DishBrain. It's the core of the world's very first commercial biological computer, the CL1. What they do is take human neurons grown from stem cells and actually fuse them with silicon chips. And the whole thing is managed by an operating system they built called BIOS. And this right here, this is what shows you the sheer power of Wetware. A normal, traditional AI, it might need millions and millions of tries to learn how to play a simple game like Pong. The DishBrain, it figured it out in just thousands of attempts. That incredible learning speed, what experts call sample efficiency, means it learns from way, way fewer examples. That's something silicon-based AI just can't come close to right now. But it's not just about learning efficiency. It's also about power efficiency. And this number is just staggering. Startups in this space, like Final Spark, have found that these bioprocessors use 1 million times less energy than our traditional chips. Let that sink in. That's not a small improvement, it's a complete revolution. This could be the answer to the frankly unsustainable energy problem we have with modern AI and data centers, which are on track to use as much electricity as entire countries. So with that kind of mind-blowing potential, you can bet this technology isn't staying locked up in a lab. In our next section, let's look at how this is actually becoming a real industry, an industry of organisms. And of course, it comes with a business model that sounds, well, pretty familiar actually. Wetware as a service. It's exactly what it sounds like. Just like you can log on and access cloud computing power from anywhere in the world, developers can now remotely tap into the computational power of these living neural networks. This whole new industry is basically built like a stack. You start at the very bottom with the substrate layer. That's the living cells themselves. Then you've got the supercritical interface layer, which is what connects the biology to the electronics. And finally, sitting on top is the service layer, which packages all that power up and delivers it to developers and users anywhere. But, and this is a huge but, working with hardware that's alive presents challenges that are completely alien to anyone in traditional IT. As we're about to see, this new world is all about care, not code. Just look at this comparison. It says it all. In the world of traditional computing on the left, a virus is just malicious code. It's annoying, sure, but it's fixable with software. But for a biocomputer on the right, a virus is a literal biological infection that can kill your processor. You don't call the IT department for this. You need a virology lab, because one tiny contamination could wipe out weeks of work. And this takes us from those practical how-to challenges into the much, much deeper, profound ethical questions. Because when the hardware itself is alive, you have to start asking about the ghost in the machine. As this technology, what some are now calling organoid intelligence, gets more and more sophisticated, it's starting to create some really serious moral debates. We are navigating completely uncharted territory here. And this is the question that's at the very heart of it all. If a cluster of neurons has been trained, if it's learned and adapted based on its own experiences, what does it mean to turn it off? Are you just decommissioning a piece of hardware? Or is it something more? Maybe this is the best way to think about the difference. A traditional computer is like a library of books. It just stores fixed information. But biocomputing, that's more like a community of scholars. They don't just hold information, they interact with it, they grow from it, and they can even repair their own library. Which leaves us with one last thought to really chew on. For so long, we've defined ourselves as human by our ability to learn, to heal, and to adapt. But as our machines start to do the very same things, not through lines of code, but through life itself, we have to start asking a new question. What then makes us unique?